All right. The world's gone yellow, or at least my local part of the world. It's very strange. There is an ochre pall over the city. I'm sure you've probably heard of it with the, was it wildfires in, I guess, in Quebec, sending all kinds of particulates and smoke and haze down onto the city. It's really strange because it's like I looked outside my window and it's like I was looking through some kind of yellow filter. So very, very weird. Had to close the windows today, which is unfortunate because otherwise it's kind of a nice day. My daughter had her field day today and that was canceled. So that was a bummer. They did end up rescheduling it, but a bummer nonetheless. And just, had to kind of batten the hatches, so to speak. Well, we're here. Hasn't stopped me yet. We're here doing some prep. Something that somebody mentioned yesterday in the stream, we were doing my kind of working on an events thing, was that there was sort of overlap between this, what we were working on yesterday, which was an events generator, and kind of stuff for what we're working on today, stuff for the solo X crawl we're going to do. And that's true. One of the things that occurred to me after the stream was I wondered, and actually it was reinforced today as I was looking at the yellow grossness outside, was I started thinking about, well, what would the fantasy version of basically this kind of haze would be? Obviously, sure, there is some kind of smog, haze, smoke because there's wildfires out somewhere else. Great, that's. I mean, but though I say great, but even that, in terms of things that your average event generator would pick up, probably wouldn't register. You probably wouldn't find that. And why would you? It is kind of a niche sort of thing, right? It's not even that we're having a fire. To look at the event, if you will, the event here for New York City, or wherever, because I know it's not just here. If you're being impacted by this, what would the event be? Well, it wouldn't quite be a fire because there's no fire. I don't know how far you'd have to go. What, you'd have to go up into Canada to get to where the fire is. So chances are, in terms of what the event is, we're looking at, well, it's not a fire. It's a side effect of the fire. And then, of course, I started thinking of, well, if I was going to have this happen, if I was going to use this in a fantastic element, it would not just be just a mundane, even though it's dangerous and kind of, or I guess potentially dangerous, because I think they said, if you're breathing in a bunch of the stuff, it's as if you're smoking 3 to 11 cigarettes, which I suppose for a lot of folks, I mean, I never smoked in my life, so maybe I've got some cigarettes, I mean, obviously, I'm sure I've had my share of secondhand smoke, but I never smoked cigarettes, so maybe I can stand 3 to 11 cigarettes a day for a day or so. But obviously, a lot of people can't. But really, it's mundane. It's a mundane thing. But then in a fantasy world, you might think, well, what maybe kind of fantasy? What would be a fantastic way to do it? Could it be magical? Could it not be caused by a fire? But could this be some, evil sorcerer or wizard who has sent this kind of? It's almost like a giant cloud harm. Obviously, it's not killing people, though I suppose it could if you wanted to go really far and say this is like a giant cloud kill coming. I always think of those kind of transformation sort of things. I think and I don't know where this is in the lore or if the movie made it up, but in the latest D&D movie, there is also, it's in the backstory, I guess, of what the Red Wizards of Thay, that they're some sort of, also some kind of smoke fog thing that transforms folks into the essentially undead servants of, what's the name of the guy? Zastam, I think. So that is certainly something. What I've just been doing is I'd written down a bunch of colors on a spreadsheet and I'm just pulling them in here. So I was thinking something I thought I could play around with. And maybe this is really, I mean, it's, I'm thinking, am I fooling you, person who's watching, when we're kind of continuing yesterday's thing? Not really, because I think this is something that we'll use and there will be a lot of overlap. But I was wondering if having some kind of Mad Libs approach to figuring out events might be a little bit more interesting. And so here are my reasons for thinking about the oracular approach. When we go to something, and let's see if I can pull it up. When we go to something like, do I have an open recent? Let's see. I was going to pull up. No, it's not there. Let me see. Go to something recent. What have we been doing? Like, is this? Here we go. Dragonbane. The inspiration table here. And theirs is very simple. No Mad Libs involved, right? You get an action, an attribute, and a thing. So we could roll some dice. We could come up one. I'll just read across the board. Number one, avenge ancient barrier. That becomes a sort of omen for the year. It's going to happen sometime. That's it. And then because it is somewhat vague, we lose some of this. Well, we lose some specificity, and the specificity could be important to you, might not be important to you. Certainly, if I was going to use it in the moment, not being specific has some drawbacks. The biggest one is just I have to think about it before I can deploy it. Whereas something that says the king has died, granted, I still have to figure out which king, but I have the king has died, right? Okay. Awesome. But it's like, I guess the issue I see with it, or maybe the drawback, is that you have to list out everything, or I have to think about it both as sort of metaphoric and real. So if I have the king has died, or avenge the fallen barrier, that one's nice because it's well, I mean, it's cryptic, right? Whereas the king has died is kind of concrete, which means that I have to fit it to that thing, or I have to start rolling again, or I have to make the decision, well, is it now metaphoric? And sometimes it's, I mean, I could probably set up some meta rules. Well, if I have a king that fits the bill, then it's concrete. It's just, it is what it says it is. Or if I have something else. Whereas I thought that coming up with something like I could fill in some kind of Mad Lib type situations. If you don't know Mad Libs, it's where they give you, they write up something, or they take an article, or they kind of copy a piece. Could be about anything, but they'll take out all the really identifiable bits. Or not, I guess that's not the right word. They'll take out some key words and sometimes phrases, and they'll have you poll somebody else in the room to fill them in. So you, for example, let's say that there's a little Mad Libs about the band, the White Stripes. And so they would say instead of having the white stripes, they might say the adjective nouns, plural nouns. So of course you could say the White Stripes, but often you might say the blue tangerines. And then, you read the article and you fill in all the stuff. It's ha ha ha. This was an article about the White Stripes, and suddenly it's totally different. My daughter is big into them. I used to like them back in the day. And I don't know what the generic word is. I'm pretty sure Mad Libs is trademarked. So if I ever wanted to do something with this, I'd have to find another name. That being said, something I was thinking about is you could think of, they would have these, right? This in the Mad Libs form, this would be, right, you say adjective, then you'd say person. A lot of times it's like person in the room, or maybe they'll say famous person. And then they would say, give me a verb. Sometimes it's verb ending in ing, sometimes, past, whatever, but verb, and then, colors, and then, they call this a noun. I'm calling it a thing. And then you could do that. So I thought, well, maybe this would work, because I like the fact that you might get, say, an angry, I don't know. And then for person, because maybe I want to stay, I was trying to think about, well, if you were reading a prophecy, they specifically are vague in terms of fiction. That's the fun thing about it. So you get, Oedipus's father. Well, Oedipus's father, I guess, gets a pretty this is pretty concrete. But I was thinking that classic one, a great empire will fall, and then the person who gets it is like, oh, great, that means I'm going to win. It turned out he was going to lose, because they're both great empires, and he just read it as being the other guy, and it was him. I suppose it actually is fairly specific that they are two empires, but I always think about maybe I'm totally wrong. But I always think about these things as being kind of specifically vague and up to interpretation, and that's when you get into classic literature, all the fun, or Lord of the Rings, right? No living man can kill me, or whatever. What the Witch King is, don't you know? And look, and this one's a hobbit, so they're not a man. Then the other person's a woman, so technically she's not a man, and so they both, between the both of them, they they get to put down the Witch King. there was some wiggle room in there. Whereas I feel like if we say, I mean, maybe we'd say king. I don't know. Going back and forth. But I'm wondering if on oracular route for some of this, maybe just the yearly kind of this is the big thing that's coming might be kind of fun. Or maybe just get rid of this and you just do kind of where is it again? What they did, and just have action attribute thing. I always read it in that order too, like avenge or like, craft, blah, blah, blah. Maybe we need some different ones so that we have different orders. Maybe that's the thing. Like you go from action attribute thing, action attribute. So you could have barrier, avenging, ancient, corrupted creature delivers. Something like that. Maybe that's what I got to do. I got to think about it. But I was thinking about it today, and I was thinking about the fog, I guess. The fog is what got me on this little path. Just for giggles, we got a fair amount of stuff done. We a few weeks ago, we kind of set up our basic procedure, which might be changing, right? Because I started this off thinking I was going to do just your standard hex crawl, dungeon crawl, rinse, repeat. But then I started to think about it, and I thought, I really think I'm more interested for this and maybe doing less dungeon crawling. Not that there will be no dungeon crawling, but just not dungeon crawling taking up a long majority, like shorter, smaller, single-serving dungeons, which might equate to ruins with a few underground spots, 5, 6, 7, 8 rooms, something like that. Not sprawling multi-level dungeons, and certainly not mega dungeons, because I thought that it might be fun to lean into a more social Arthurian, really getting into the landscape, getting into the whatever politics is going, getting into the above ground stuff, traveling from place to place, and maybe entering tourneys, or at least getting into mischief and different things, maybe rising up the ranks and getting invited to different courts and things like that, and intrigues and some such, and just kind of playing the above surface game, which I think is a lot of fun. My home game, which will be going on hiatus very soon because one of the players' wives, a wife of one of the players is about to give birth, and that's going to put him on the shelf for a while. Since it's a very small group, we've decided to put it on hold. But my home game is very much like that, in which it's mostly above ground. Not that they won't go into dungeons, but they've just really enjoyed the sort of experience of just getting into all the intrigues, because most of the intrigues happen in above ground places. They happen in the places of power. They happen with NPCs and factions, whatever, which are mostly not operating in these dungeons. Sometimes they are. Sometimes, you have a faction, you may have a hideout or whatever, but for the most part, they're in the towns, they're in their strongholds, they're in these places. And so that political game doesn't really, not that it doesn't mesh, you can't do both. Excuse me. But I think in terms of what I thought was interesting, and also a little bit different, because lots of folks do solo kind of dungeon crawl, hex crawl. So I thought, hey, maybe this will be different. Maybe this would be something interesting. And we did come up with a bunch of different kind of events and things. And we talked about being able to set up zones and just different ways of categorizing the landscape. So we came up with what a war zone means, what maybe a zone means if it's occupied, what a zone means when it's controlled, lands that are claimed versus lands that are settled. Because I think this may be where a lot of it lies. I think at the moment that my character's goal, and I'm hoping that things will take off and things will shift, but their goal is that this is a game of trying to get to that stronghold state. It's to make your way into the world and get somewhere to where you can have a place to call your own. So these ideas of what the sort of what we call it, the political, here we have more or less, and this map I'm going to redo because the roads are crazy and all this stuff, but we've got this kind of thing, but this is more or less the physical or geographical, or I don't know, natural world, so to speak, or whatever, with all the kind of biomes and environments. It would be important to have some kind of layer over this, which has the political stuff, because I foresee that the political stuff, who controls what? If we're going to plant our flag somewhere at some point for our stronghold, where will we go? What real estate can we afford? So on and so forth. So with that being said, I think this was part of last week. We went through a whole kind of thing of coming up with some different, and we didn't flesh it out entirely. of kind of what sort of adventures might look like. Because originally we're looking at saying, well, we're going to get our rumor table. The rumor table is going to have essentially go to this thing, and then here's where the dungeon is, and here's where the treasure is. But then, as I was thinking, well, maybe this is, as I just mentioned, we're not going to prioritize just flat treasure grabbing from dungeons. I mean, there'll be some of it, but it may not even be the most most likely adventure path, and maybe not the most numerous paths to adventure. Then what might our adventures look like? And it was kind of going to different places, right? Oh, we might have to go to a ruin and grab something out of there, do something there. We might need to go to a different settlement. We might need to do something at a stronghold. We might need to go and interface with the fairy realm, right? We might need to go to a religious spot, and then all these different kind of adventures. And of course, like for, to whom, either, who are we getting, or who is giving us this mission, what is it, or not mission necessarily, but putting out this, wherever this adventure is coming from, what is it that we're chasing? And then as I was just coming up with different things, thought about like secrets, because some of these might be, for example, a mission might be, or a potential adventure might be to learn a secret at a stronghold. And then, so what might the secret be? Well, it might be an element of an ongoing plot, might be an identity of an enemy, might be an identity of an ally, a hidden location, hidden event. We probably need to figure out what kind of plots we have. Whoops, maybe I'll get rid of that. I'll do a list. Nope, stop that. So maybe that's a good place to start, as I've been spinning my wheels for long enough. So plots. And this is not necessarily plots this is not things that we're doing. These are things that are potentially we might discover. So we get an adventure. Hey, let's see, what might an example be? Someone that we know. Friar Tuck says to us, hey, I think Prince John there's something weird is going on at Prince John. I need you, or we need somebody, or could you go to his castle and try to sniff out what it is that's going on? Because I know that rascally Prince is scheming, but I don't know what. And so this would be kind of answering that question. Well, when we would discover this plot, we'd do whatever we do in the fiction, and we figured it out. We listened behind the right door. We hid behind a tapestry or a heavy curtain, and we heard the whispers, and we put it together, and we go, aha, the plot is, roll some dice and figure it out, right? So we might have assassinate an important person, usurp an authority. Let's see. And this is blood orange tangerine for the working man. Start a war. An important person could be religious, could be secular. I'm not differentiating between the two. Same thing with authority. Usurping an authority could be secular, could be religious, could be guild, mercantile. Doesn't really matter to me, or I'm sort of one level above that in terms of the abstraction at this point. See, assassinate an important person, usurp an authority, start a war, or maybe start a war too much. Maybe I should say, what would be invade what's the word? A sovereign. Or maybe I'll say seize. Let's call that. Steal an artifact. Conduct a powerful Magic ritual. Let's see. So we got assassinate somebody, usurp, and plots are going to tend to be evil. I'm thinking, right? So I'm not thinking that the plot's going to be save Christmas. Plot would be, canceling Christmas or murdering Santa Claus. Who would ever want to do that? Assassinate an important person, usurp an authority, seize a sovereign land, steal an artifact, conduct a powerful magic ritual. I'm sure there's other things, though I'm trying to keep it kind of generic and loosey-goosey right now. Let's see. Break a pact. Make a secret pact. Oh, let's see. Now we're up to 8, which is good. Do we have more? Is there more plots? I'm sure there is. I'm sure there are. So, okay, assassinate somebody, usurp something, seize something, steal something, magic something, essentially break something, make something. Commit a heinous crime. And I know there's some overlap there between a heinous crime and assassination and thing, but to me this is like your genocide or something like that. Like this person's out to do something really bad to a bunch of people as opposed to something really bad to a single person. And it's not, as much as we'd say it's bad to invade someone, you think at the time there's kind of a might makes right sort of thing. It was more or less acceptable, I guess, to sort of, if you're following the chivalric rules of war, to go in and declare war, right? It's war is a natural part of human experience, blah, blah, blah. But the kind of stuff when they're committing a heinous crime is something that nobody, even in that kind of mentality and time, would think is a normal thing. You're doing something that's, really, really bad. Oh, what else? Let's see. We're at 8. Think of anything else. Can I think of any other plots? And again, these are plots not that we're going to be doing, but these are plots that we might uncover. So in some way, they're kind of we could also roll on this for if we needed a faction action. A faction action. Faction actions, we might roll on this. I suppose there's something like prevent. You're trying to stop somebody else from doing something. What would that be? Prevent another plot. So I guess could swing either way from good or evil. But in this case, probably evil. And then maybe number 10. So we have break a pact, which I think would also include the kind of turncoat, Benedict Arnold, your betrayal. That would be breaking a pact. So I don't think I need a separate "you betrayed me" plot, because I think that's covered there. Seizing a sovereign land, that would be things like invasion. I think invasion's a big one, but basically, this is that whoever it is makes a run for something, right? Stealing an artifact, I think is pretty self-explanatory. Or maybe should it be something like stealing a secret? Maybe an artifact. Maybe that's better. I think we have it separately. Maybe steal an artifact and uncover a secret. How's that? That might work. Now, I don't have anything that's kind of dungeon-centric. These are all things. I suppose if somebody else is doing something dungeon-centric, then prevent another plot could involve a dungeon. I'm trying to think because dungeons are going to play not a huge role in this. It's maybe a reduced role compared to some other solo campaigns, but it's going to be there. And so it's nice to think about, well, if I'm going to some ruin to do something, could somebody else be out there to stop me? But maybe it's really covered by some of these other things. I suppose steal, maybe I'll put recover. Or I should just say obtain. I'll put up obtain. Obtain an artifact. And then depending on the artifact, we can determine whether said artifact is in the owned by somebody else, or if it's out in the wild somewhere. I think that probably works well. Right. So so I'm trying to think here. If we were going to put some of this stuff together, maybe I'll do sort of a adventure Mad Libs. I'm hooked on Mad Libs, everybody. Adventure Mad Libs. It would be, well, one might be, say, go to place to verb thing for person. So, go to the ruins to find, steal, whatever thing for person. And we have to make sense of it. There's some of those you probably have to make sense. I think obtain actually is nice, because then the verb, in terms of it being, it doesn't matter so much whether you're stealing it, it's obtaining it. So if you go to, so if I'm thinking ahead to, okay, if I'm placing in here, I'm like, okay, go to ruins to obtain thing for person, that works. Go to stronghold to obtain thing for a person also works, right? Deliver thing to person at place. Whoops. Something like that, right? So I think that gives, I can probably iterate on these. It's not super important, but I think it's good to get a sense of the shape of what this is going to look like. And so in our case, then we would come through and we would sort of roll these things down. So here we can see we have our verbs right here, and then I would probably rewrite these as verb, thing, and then okay, great, and then we could sort of spin those off. All right, maybe I'll do one more. I'm just thinking about what might be another one. Verb person at place. My cat wants to leave, but you can't leave right now, Bruce. I'm on stream. You're on stream. You're live with me, Bruce. You're stuck. Okie dokie. All right. Is it time to go into this map? I don't have Worldographer on this machine yet. I don't. I know there's that. Was it Hex? Is it Hex TML? Is that right? I don't think this will work for me. Yeah. I don't think I can overlay something. Can I? Oh, I can export. I can open. It's not going to let me open an image, is it? No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Okay. I need Worldographer if I'm gonna do the map. Oops. I went to the forums. I wanted to go here. All right. Bruce, you can't leave yet. You got to wait for me, Bruce. My cat is. He wants to go, but there's nobody to let him out. Sorry, my boy. You're here with me for a bit longer. Well, what we can do is start to think about where we're going to start. I kind of like, well, one, I think we have to determine what these symbols are. I think I tried to make it so cities and towns, I kind of feel like we're going to have to start from scratch. I don't think there's anything I can open up to pull this in to look at. I mean, like, I guess I could generate a new one, but I kind of like this one. I like the bay, especially given that this is going to be more political. I think we're just going to have to draw over the top. I'm just going to have to draw over the top of you. No, not that. You're not going to let me draw. No, no, no. Delete. Can I not grab you? If I do something like this, okay, that's nice, but that doesn't help me, pal. I thought there was a way to draw on top of things. What did I do last time? Ugh. All right, that's not it. That ain't it. Are there any options here? No. All right. Did I just delete that whole thing? I did. No, I didn't want to do that. I just want to delete that. Oh, stop it, you. There we go. What's this? Show grid 4x3. That's all good. I see our sizing. Okay, it doesn't help me though. Publish, choose a color. No. Okay. Okay. I think I mentioned before I'm going to use OD&D. That would be the other thing. OD&D plus some other stuff. So I did take the liberty of having all these OD&D books printed out. Or not printed out, but linked to the whiteboard. God, my cat is just going to drive me nuts, but I can't get up. I can't get up. I can't get out. I muted myself to call out to the cat, and he's not hearing me. You're not hearing me, Bruce. All right, let me put on mute one second. Let me let my cat out before he drives me bananas. Be right back. All right, the cat has been let out. Hopefully, what tends to happen with the cats is then he's, 2 seconds later he wants back in. But assuming the cat stays out, I'm going to assume. And I'm going to start by just using, so back to OD&D. So I'm going to be using OD&D. And I'm going to kind of at least go by the book. Why are you doing that? By the book. There we go. And then I'll figure out kind of as we go where I need to fill in. I think I'm going to use just a plain sort of D6. I have sort of a system I'm working on, just using a D6 for kind of other tasks. I will probably just port that in as my resolution system. Should I just roll up a guy now? Should I just do that? Should I just roll up somebody? I suppose it can't hurt. I don't have a die roller on here, which is unfortunate. I need, what do I need? 3d6 down the line, all right? They give you so much stuff before they really. All right, let me make a list here for my guy. First guy here. Call him character 1. Character 1. Let me come over here. And I think I'm going to go one character to start. Maybe I'll go with a crew. I don't know. Another thing about, I think another aspect of doing kind of more above ground is I think what I'll probably do is play with the numbers a little bit. That might be where to maybe make things not quite so just crazy dangerous out in the world, just to give me a chance to go out and about. Whoops, what did I do? No, that was wrong. Well, let's see. We got strength, intelligence, wisdom. And then I think depending on how this starts to work, as I'm feeling things out, I'll consider doing things like adding, maybe adding some classes or some kind of subclasses or anything. I'm not anti-class. I think it's, I don't want to say it's unfortunate, but I think some people get stuck, or not necessarily stuck, but this kind of thing about, 3 classes is enough for anyone. For anyone, 3 classes is enough, kind of thing. And while that's true on some level, I think there's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with having multiple classes, especially when you can use, in my opinion, use classes to expose and mechanize different cultural things. So you can give folks a little bit of a bump in different things. So maybe you have a class that are into your typical fighters, generally getting as heavily armored as possible, whatever going. But maybe you could have another culture out there or type who's more lightly armored, and they give up something and maybe they gain something in return. And I think you can have a lot of fun there, just in terms of what spells they have access to versus the other. And there are obviously many ways to skin that cat, just about saying, well, you can never find X amount of spell because it doesn't exist, which is another way to do it. But I think having, or even just coming up with something, like I want something, I think I forget whose game I was playing in, that had, a merchant adventurer was a class, and it had some things that were good in mercantile situations, like when you're back in town, and some things that were good in dangerous situations. And whereas you could, yes, there's no question, you could simply say, well, you don't need, you don't need that stuff to do this thing. It's like, no, but I think it's fun to have those things, and players get into it. And no question. I mean, there's a reason I think why classes have, and being able to multi-class and all this stuff has kind of exploded as time has gone on. Because guess what? It's fun. And I'm not someone that feels like I got to be a curmudgeon about said things. All right, so I'm going to be rolling my dice here hard way. I'm just going to do 3d6. We'll see if I get something. If I get something truly just abominable, maybe I'll roll over. But I think for the most part, it's okay. I mean, obviously, it will help determine. And I'm tending to think I'm going to go human only. But maybe what I'll do is, what I did this in another game, I think it worked out pretty well. I had everyone was human only, but if you wanted to play an elf or a dwarf, it was kind of like you had that heritage, like you had a little bit of elfness, dwarf something, or just something, whatever like that. So you basically got all the perks of being that and the limitations and all that stuff, but you were, human on the eyes. All right, so this is, what did I get? This is strength. It'd be cool if I got high strength, just because could be a fighter type. Well, it's a good start. I got a 6. Oh, I got a 6 and I got a 2, so I got 14 strength, which I think actually doesn't net me much, right? 14. Yep. No, wait, that's charisma. Where's my strength? Okay, it's a prime requisite. I don't think I get anything, right? Maybe it's not nothing. I forget. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I mentioned that everything starts to blend. But I got good strength. Now, intelligence, I'm going to rewrite intelligence. I'm not going to do it today, but I'm not going to use intelligence for languages, it's fine, but it's more like, I don't know, something else. I got 4, 2, and 2, so I have 8 intelligence. So I'm not going to have a ton of languages. Right, I think it's languages. Whoops. Stop doing that, would you? Languages, common tongue. Character's language above 10. Yeah, so I only know the common tongue. So he is not. No, doesn't know semaphore, doesn't know sign language. Let's see. I got 9 for wisdom. He's not a wise man. All right. So if everything goes according to Hoyle, I will rock this Constitution roll to give myself a true fighter. Oh, and I did. I did triple 5s. See, look, the dice, they listen. All right. Can I be good with a bow? Give me some decks. Come on, give me some sugar on the desk. Oh, off the table. What did I get? Let's see. Oh, what is this? Cocked. Oh, gosh, this is gonna be tough because I got 16 on decks. He's very able. All right, so watch this. Me get like a 3 in charisma. No, actually, not that bad. 10. This is one of the better characters I've rolled up ever, potentially. Let me get him a name. And for names, I just go to my own hireling thing that I made ages ago. I need to update some of this stuff because it's pulling in like this is old. But I just this is a very weird hireling. If you're not familiar with this, I made this ages ago. You get all kinds of crazy stuff. You get some gear, so it gives you like what their occupation is, their stats, their gear, and then something about them. When I made up this kind of goofy, like a horoscope kind of thing, so you get. So, for example, this person named Walder the Guide, she is 28 years old, born in the fall, under the sign of the drowned rabbit of the Black Mountain, aspect of war. Mildly lustful, an above-average guide, loves to travel, and has a mild obsession with the elderly. So there you go. You got that. I'm looking for a name for this guy. And the names are also very... And I run it through a few things and kind of mash it together and didn't do much beyond that. So I think you do get some interesting names, but you also get a lot of names that are kind of hard or weird, like Childjor or Childjor, Godhag, or maybe Gothig. Gothig's not bad if I change that, just out of curiosity. 36 years old, born in the spring under the sign of the blind stone maw, aspect of pleasure, is extremely grumpy, a mediocre ship oarsman, likes to carouse, and has a hatred of the elderly. Well, the elderly either love him or hate him. But I like Gothag, so I'm going to change it to TH, and I'm going to stick that. What did I do? What did I do? No, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah. Gothag. Should I get a last name? Should I pull up another one and see if his... Well, it's... And you can just recruit more. Let's see. Wingnir, Wolfred. That's kind of a cool Wolfred. Oh, but it's a lady. She is 32 years old, born in the winter under the sign of the chained goat of the Ruby Mountain, aspect of trade. Is extremely slothful and above average coachman. Loves to travel and has a mild fascination with cats. Sometimes you get someone who, like, they're a coachman, but they hate to travel, or like the captain, the oarsman who hates the sea. You get some interesting... Holmvid, Nodolf, Hundag. That's 2. Wathamal, Bjornist, Bogmang. Give me another fitty. Girthwin, Longanow. What's his first name? Aren't you forgetting? Gothag. I don't want another G in the name, I don't think. Unless it's at the end. Garthag Denand. 25-year-old, born in the summer under the sign of the great prince of the forge, aspect of pleasure. Mildly violent. An excellent archer, loves to carouse, and has a hatred of men. Oof. Tough guy. Friddard, Anwil the servant, Wombred the servant. Let's see, Gothag, Anwil. Anwil is 37 years old, born in the spring under the sign of the mighty spider of the Black Ocean, aspect of trade. Is extremely lazy, an excellent servant, likes to eat, and has a mild repulsion towards dragons. Who doesn't? Who does not have a mild repulsion towards dragons? I ask you. All right, so I guess I'll go with Anwil. Why do I keep doing that? All right, Gothag, Anwil. There we go. Strength 14. I mean, it's obvious. Is it not? I didn't roll for hit points. I'm going to give him 6 hit points. I'm just going to start him off at max. I'll roll for gold. Hit points. 6. And then I'm just going to use gold for right now. I'll probably switch and have silver as the everyday currency, but just for now, just to do it, gold. And what, 3d6 times 10, right? 80 gold. Now, we've got some stuff we could do. We've got ready reference sheets. I think ready reference sheets might have some things we could use for character creation. Have some fun with like what position they were in life. Or I made some tables too, didn't I? I think I did. I'll use mine and we can see ready reference sheets. So, okay, I need a D4. Whoops. Need a D4. This will probably be good because this will help center me in terms of what I need to do because of what's 2. So he's a commoner. Born. Let me write this down. This is his backstory. Born to a common family. Okay. All right, I only have, so in setting incident, I only came up with 3. One was change of fortunes, which could be, you lose the farm, something like that, right? Usually negative in terms of what gets you started in adventure. You generally don't become an adventurer because your family or you are in a particularly great spot. So what happens? Something happens. War obviously is one. Natural disaster. What might another one be? Like religious events? Is there another? Oh, change of fortunes. Because I feel like change of fortunes would also be like disease, sickness, something that kind of like changes your fortunes. War, natural disaster, maybe supernatural events. I don't know. We'll go with it. We'll go with it for now. I can update it later. I got 1. So change of fortunes. Family went bankrupt. Okay, I'm gonna spice this up for myself. The family went bankrupt due to, unpaid bills due to the local lords failure to pay their bills. Pay their bills. So your commoners, maybe your farmers. I don't know. So you're not indentured servants, but you're commoners. So yeah, maybe excuse me. To pay for their goods and services. I don't know. I could probably at some point come back and figure out what that means in more detail. Who would be a friend? I guess I'll do an 8-sided die. Maybe I'll get lucky. I guess maybe if it's an 8, I'll roll 2 since I didn't come up with 8. Probably won't roll an 8 though, but who knows? I rolled an 8. Oh, it's all right. So the first one is a petty noble. Was childhood or is a friend since childhood of the local lords. Call it the middle son. So not super powerful, right? Not in the main line of succession. And we're going to say that, so this makes sense. Or I think to me, we have a natural rival. Terrence, thank you, Terrence. We have a natural rival being either the Lord or the Lord's oldest son. So maybe I'll just insert one of those and not rolling for it because we have some context. But for the second mentor, okay, I got petty noble again, which I don't. Oh no, I didn't. I got 7. A cleric or cultist. And I'll just say it's his older brother. His older brother is a parish priest. Mutual hatred, shared mutual mutual hatred with eldest son of local lord. And my reasoning is that perhaps there was what's his name here? Gothag is coming of age. This thing's happening with his family and the local lord. Maybe it's the local lord's son. Oh, that probably even makes more sense. Eldest son's failure to pay their debts. I'll just say debts. They owed the family something. The family did something, and maybe the Lord, and something that I think is a fairly well-worn trope, right? The Lord himself isn't bad, but just not right, not strong-willed. So they let someone else, in this case the son, pushes the father not to pay the debts, protests, the father caves into his kid, and the family is destitute. Maybe they're driven out of the town. I think that's pretty good, right? So we've got Gothag and Will. He's got some good. He's strong. He's beefy. He's swift. He's not ugly. He's all right. He's run of the mill. Not gonna be. Hasn't never went to university, so he doesn't have his intelligence is not strong. Wasn't a good church going, or he didn't go in much for the religious stuff. His brother did. So he's not particularly wise in that way. And I think I'm going to rewrite these into something else. And now his backstory is born to a common family. The family went bankrupt due to the local lord's eldest son's failure to pay their debts. As a friend since childhood, the local lord's middle son, or maybe second son, I'll put just to make that clear. We don't know how many kids the local lord has. Older brother is a parish priest. Mutual hatred with the eldest son of the local lord. So he's got a couple of friends, got an enemy, and I think we're gonna go fighter. I think there's nothing else really makes a whole lot of sense to me. I do want to go look at. I know there's stuff in the Ready Reference Guild. I just need to. I don't know if they're strictly for backstory purposes, but they have stuff. So social level city encounter. No, let's see. Let me zoom in on this a little bit more. List of hierarchies. Let's see, social level. What I can roll to see where the social level is in this. Is he a god? Yes. I forget how this works. GG. What's GG? Roll per quarter. Who encountered? I see. Roll unusual. 2 to 16. See, this is where I always forget. I gotta sit there and I gotta try to remember what it is. So in this case, you're supposed to be doing the attack, the type of encounter. And then you're supposed to kind of go through who do you encounter, and then you would go through and go through here, and you find out, or depending what quarter you're in. If you're in the noble quarter, it's going to be one of these. If you're in the common quarter, it's one of these. So then you would come down here and you go, I got a 5 or 6. You go noble, and then you would roll on this. But I forget what SL and GL mean. SLGL. SLGL. So it's a D20. It's kind of 2D20. The reality is I just want the kind of highborn. I suppose I should just do page. It's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's a D6. So I'm just going to roll a D6. Page varlet is 1. Count is 6. I got 1. So it's just a page. Varlet. Maybe got to be. I don't even know what a varlet is. I've been messing around with this this being, this kind of chat GPT stuff. Very wary of the chat GPT and those kinds of things. And the reason is I don't want it to, I feel like part of the thing with playing these kinds of games and doing the kind of prep is really engaging with our imaginations. And my fear with the chat GPT stuff is that it's going to sap that. And instead we'll just be going to these tools and not using our brains. I know the tools give us back imperfect answers, so we kind of fill in the blanks, not unlike an Oracle. But I'm trying to decide. I'm trying to decide how much or how low, but I'm tending to use it really more for just doing a Google search or whatever form here. In this case, I guess a Bing search. What is the definition tab of, oops, I don't need on it, of a varlet? And the Google bot says, oh, you guys can't see it. Varlet. Okay, so it's searching for a varlet definition. Oh, there you guys are seeing a bit of it. According to the Oxford Dictionary, a varlet is a man or boy acting as an attendant or servant, a knight's page, or a dishonest or unprincipled man. Is an obsolete term that dates back to the late Middle English period. Okay. An attendant. Interesting. Would they be landed? Might have to go up to, because I don't think highborn's going to do it. I might have to go up to Thane. What is the definition of a Thane? Give me a Thane. What do I get for Thane? Survey says, come on. Okay, according to the Oxford Dictionary, a Thane is a man who held land granted by the king or by a military nobleman, ranking between an ordinary freeman and a hereditary noble. The name dates back to Old English times when it was used to refer to as a servant or soldier. Okay, I think I like that. They're a Thane. So that definitely helps me out, because now I've got the understanding that they're not highborn. They're a low level, still above. So it puts the kind of scope, I think, where I'd like to be. So we'll swap out Lord for Thane. Maybe we'll get a name for the Thane in a second, and then we'll call it a stream. It's possible the Thane themselves is ambivalent towards us, or even likes us, but sometimes because of circumstances, right? Your son has done stuff, but you got to cover up for it because it's your son. Maybe their position is a little bit antsy because they're not aristocrats themselves. Maybe they're hoping to be made like mob style at some point, which puts them, meaning that they really have to wash their P's and Q's, so that when the son acts out, the father is more likely to try to hush it up if they can, then maybe deal with it another way. What's this? Maros. Thane Maros. Or Maros? I don't know if I like that one. We've got Nodbog. Kind of like Nodbog, but Girther Waldbrand. I'll go with Waldbrand. Oh, all right. NPC. Thane Waldbrand. Let's see, what might his backstory be? And this would be kind of explaining where he came from. We sort of have an understanding already that they were common folk, maybe even which would add up to the resentments that they were on the same level as my character's family, but then were raised up at some point, which would be that change of circumstances, maybe. Okay, they were traders born into a family of traders. Wallbrand. Let's see, the inciting incident. 3, a natural disaster. Let's see. I'm going to do saved the life of a local lord during an earthquake. For this service, Wallbrand was elevated to Thanehood. How's that? And let's roll. And then I'm sure he did stuff. Let's roll for, I'm going to roll a D10. No, a D, 2D4 for what level he is. 1. He's only level 2. Class. Fighter 2. He's only a fighter. Name. Backstory. And let's roll up his kid real quick. Get a name. Oh, not roll up so much. Just get a kid. What's a good kind of jerk off name? Arnold. Arnold seems to me like a good guy. Arnold's a good guy. I'm going to make that the second son. I'm going to go with Arnold as the second son. I will copy this, though. Whoops. Arnold, second son of okay, and then we can now who will be son number 1? Who will be son number 1? Number 1, Crunchy Frog. Okay, Daganu Winrick Halza. What's this? Bringand. That's a little clunky. Very close to Brigand. Thunwin Friston. All right, I'll go with Friston. I'll go with Friston. That's over here. So we'll make Friston. Eldest son and heir of Thane Waldbrand. And we don't know. Let's see. We got some occupations, right? We got some. Well, the heir. So he is. I'll put Friston right now as a. I'll just put him as a fighter 0. Now the second son, right, would be kind of clergy. Maybe cleric 0. Maybe he hasn't gone into the church yet. And then if we had more kids, I would roll on the because it's always I was thinking about this, right? It's first kid is your heir, goes into the family business. Second kid, church, something of that nature. Third and beyond are just kind of like get out of the house, right? Move it or lose it. And maybe that if Gothic's family had been more well-to-do and well-off and hadn't gone through that disaster, he might have been pushed to become a clergyman. But instead, because of this, the first son had no more inheritance, decided to go into some kind of a holy religious service, and Gothic's kind of on his own, making his way in the world. All right, that is all, folks. I know this wasn't this was an episode moving at the speed of honey, sarsaparilla, or just sluggish speed of ooze. But I think we ended up with some good things done. It's the first time I'm doing all this, so I don't have any of this stuff set up, and I'm kind of finding my way. So that's kind of where this comes from. But hopefully we'll get really kicking off soon. I'll try to work on some of the stuff on the side so I can be more prepped and ready to go imminently. But thanks so much for watching. If you give a thumbs up on your way out, that would be awesome. If you feel like subscribing and you're not subscribed already, that would also be awesome. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day or night whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.